So I always get the question every time we do a live stream of what are some of the best budget mods for foxbody. So let's go ahead and talk about that tonight. So you got yourself a foxbody and you want a little more power and you don't really know where to go first. You got options, right? You can go out and you can buy an expensive head for your car. We'll use this car as an example here. This is the Calypso underneath us right here. Calypso is a 347 stroker and it has Trick Flow 11R 205cc heads in it. These are a relatively expensive head. These things are a little over $2,000 just for the heads themselves, okay? So let's talk about that as an option for your stock bottom end car. Let's say you saved up a little bit of money and you want to go out and buy a set of these badass heads, whether it be AFR, Trick Flow, doesn't matter, Brodix, whatever the case may be, you want to go out and buy these heads. What are your expectations here? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that this car is going to be just a street burner? You know, there again, you know, make 450 horsepower to the tires and just be absolutely brutal in the street because this thing has really good heads on it? The answer to that's probably going to be no. This is kind of a touchy subject because some of you guys will disagree with me, and that's fine, and I get it. And I always seem to leave something out here, but here's the deal. A really big head, a really expensive, nice head is only going to do so much on a stock bottom end car, meaning lower compression, stock stroke, stock bore, this type setup. There's just only so much air that this little engine can move. Now, you go out and you buy yourself a set of GT40 heads out of the scrapyard, or maybe you find a set on Facebook or somewhere like that. And let's say you pay 150 to 300 bucks for them, depending, right? These heads will wake your car up. It will make more power than it does with the stock E7 heads or E6 heads or whatever the case may be. We'll just call it a $300 set of heads, okay? Is it worth paying $300 for a set of heads that are going to give you another 40 horsepower or something like that, which is doable, especially if you clean these things up? Or is it worth spending $1,500 to $2,000 on a set of aluminum heads and you think you're going to make a lot more power? Now, you're going to make more power. Let's just be honest. It's going to probably make more power than your GT40 heads. But in my personal opinion, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it because of the extra money that you're spending. Now, that being said, because I know a lot of you are typing away down in the comments right now, there's a caveat to this, and that is the fact that if you're planning on building your car later and you're wanting to do a stroker kit or possibly even like a turbo or supercharger, that is where you're going to benefit from these really good heads, right? Because you're moving more air. Your engine is an air pump. You will benefit from those at that point, right? So if you're going to build you a 347 or a 351 or 331 or a turbo build or even a high compression build, I get it. Okay, I'm not discouraging anybody from buying a really good head. I talk about this because if you're new to the game, what I don't want you out here doing is spending unneeded money. I think at some point in our lives, we all thought this way. You know, I thought myself, if I'm going to build any of these cars, even, you know, pretty much my Retro Fox when it was stock out here, if I was going to do anything to this car, I wanted to put the baddest heads that I could on it. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. You just have to also curb your expectations. You have to know that these cars with no modifications and a stock bottom end just can't do but so much. This car up here is NA, meaning it's naturally aspirated, right? It's a little 306. It's probably got a slight bump in compression to probably 9.5 to 1, 10 to 1, something like that. Nothing crazy. And it's got a set of Canfield 192cc heads, which are a really good freaking head from back in the day. Now, this car has a Systemax intake on it, and it's got an Anderson N412 camshaft in it. That's pretty much all it's got that's helping work with the heads. And yeah, it runs good, but it's not going to go out there and compete with any of these newer cars, right? This thing's not making some obscene horsepower number. A set of GT40s ported, polished at home wouldn't be too far off from this build right here. Always check piston to valve clearance, because what I'm about to tell you could be very dangerous if you don't do your own research. But here's rule of thumb, okay? You can run an Anderson N41 cam with stock heads all day long. You put a set of 202 or 205 valve heads on your car and you try to run the same cam with stock pistons, there's a good chance you're not going to make it, right? It's going to bend the valve. You're going to get yourself into some issues. So I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I want to do with this car? be careful of how far you take whatever build it is that you're doing. Be careful of how far you go with it. And here's why I say that. The spirit of these cars, what we love about our foxbody or whatever other car it is that you're building, can quickly fade away if you get too far past stock for a lot of you guys. You get a car that's got a really rowdy cam, well guess what? With a 5-speed, this thing's probably going to want to buck and kind of act crazy at low speeds, especially like around your neighborhood or pulling up to a service station or something like that. Realistic type stuff here, guys. This thing is going to want to fight you. It's going to be somewhat aggravating. Even with a good tune, it's still there, okay? Typically, I don't recommend you going more than a B cam or an Anderson N41 on a stock build. Typically, those can be tweaked and adjusted out to the point to where they don't really drive you crazy to drive. So don't lose the essence of what your car is trying to outrun all these other cars out there. Let me give you an example here. So let's say that you bought yourself a foxbody and you're going to throw a supercharger on it, and you're going to put some AFR heads on this thing. You're going to put a badass custom ground cam, 373 gears, upper and lower intake, 80-pound injectors, running on E85. That sounds like a hell of a build, right? On a stock bottom end, we'll say. You're still going to be hard-pressed to get out there with these newfangled rides and outrun them. All right, guys, here's the deal. I know for a lot of you that's not important, but I know for some of you it is. So we need to talk about this because this is a real thing. You're not going to outrun that Tesla. It's not going to happen. The little secretary that works at your job that's got a Tesla Plaid, hang it up. It's not happening. You're not outrunning that. So here's what I'm trying to say. Or even some of these other cars. Some of these new these new Camaros and Challengers and Chargers and Hellcats and ZL1s, ZR1s. Always remember why you fell in love with the car that you have. And try not to lose sight of it, okay? Because it can happen really easily. You can overbuild a car and then you don't love it the same. So sorry guys, I hate to get off on a tangent with all this type stuff, but I think these are just some of the things that we need to talk about in the foxbody community, okay? I've seen this happen so many times to people. It's happened to me. We overbuild even when we know better. Even when we've done it before and it's failed or we did not enjoy the car, we'll do it again and again and again. Here's what I say. Stop worrying about the amount of horsepower it makes. Spend some money on a system for your car. A nice little system, tint the windows, get your AC working good. Put a set of nice wheels on it, some exhaust, some gears, a decent set of heads, a nice sounding cam, and go drive it. Just go freaking drive it. All right, guys, I hope this helped somebody. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. And as always, thanks for watching.